Greetings, Upstanders. Welcome to the Upstanders podcast with your boy, Dr. O here. And I am so honored to have this incredible guest, my sister from the same Mr. and mother. She goes by Muadi Dibinga. But before she says anything, let me tell you a little bit about her. She said, don't read the whole bio, so I'm gonna just get to the beginnings. So, with over 30 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, Muadi Dibinga is a highly skilled strategic consultant, trainer, and facilitator. She has worked with a diverse array of clients, including Carver Public Schools, the Metropolitan Council for Educational Opportunity, Acton Agua School District, Real Journey Academy, Partners in Health, Phillips Brooks House at Harvard University, and Complexions Contemporary Ballet. Muadi excels in designing and facilitating diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings, helping organizations create inclusive, transformative environments. She also guides leaders and teams through strategic planning processes that address cultural competency and other transformative issues. And she said, don't read the other many paragraphs that you can see on her website at muadidibingaunlimited.com. Muadi Dibinga, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Dr. O. What's happening?
Hey, do what I do. I'm very glad that you decided to join me on the Upstanders podcast because, I did ask you last year, but it's all good. It's all good. So, one of the...
Omékongo shade.
Well, it's nighttime, so it's...
Okay. Go ahead, continue.
So one of the things that I ask people when I do these interviews is the who question is pretty easy. Like, who are you? What do you do? But I'm more interested in the why question. Like, why is Muadi Dibinga? Why is Muadi in this space? Like, tell the world what brought you to this space that you're in right now and the work that you do.
Well, it's interesting. The why now is because I have 12 nephews and nieces who I feel compelled to do whatever I can do to create a society that's livable for them. That's my why now. As I look around working in the public school system, working around in the in government, and just the different clients that I work with, I have a concern about resource allocation to young people, their ability to live out their dreams and pursue their mission and really craft a life that they want on their own terms. So my why has shifted, in the 30 whatever years I've been doing this work. But right now, my main source of motivation that gets me up, it gets me moving, is to be of benefit to my nephews and nieces first and foremost. And then by extension, the rest of the communities, different communities that I serve. My why in the beginning, I have to say, I didn't really have a why in the beginning. I started this work because I felt compelled to do it, but I didn't really know why. It just felt like a natural progression of our upbringing, a natural progression of conversations we've had with our parents, things that we learned and experienced as young people. There was no other way. So being a community activist, working at origination in the arts and culture and empowerment and that kind of thing, it just wasn't, it was natural. It's nothing I ever really even thought about initially. So yeah, that's how we got here.
That's really interesting. And so when we talk about this why, when I listen to Les Brown, he talks about the idea of, he first started out just talking to kids and now he's talking to corporations and the like. When I've watched everything that you've done coming up, so much community service in terms of what you've been doing, but I've also seen it expand to so many different groups and different types of groups. What has that journey been like?
It's been kind of weird. Because the first recollection that I had, so right now, a lot of the work that I talk about, particularly with young people, is around mindset and vision and seeing yourself beyond your circumstances, not allowing your circumstances to master you, but for you to be the master of your circumstances. And that's something that I got from Daddy, from our parents, way, way back in the day.
Yeah.
I remember as you know, we grew up together. We grew up with some very challenging circumstances. Financially, we struggled. Socially, we struggled. Politically, we struggled, across the board. And I remember, like it was yesterday, at almost 60 years old, I remember being at the table with Daddy, with our father, where the electricity happened to be cut off at that moment. Real talk.
One of many moments.
Well, it is what it is. We're going to keep this 100% real, right?
No.
And I remember Daddy said to us at that table in the dark, my children are going to change the world. And I remember thinking to myself, what is going on up in here? Daddy done lost his mind. I knew he didn't drink. I knew he didn't do drugs. I was like, something's going on. And, Congolese, first generation Congolese American, we weren't talking back. You just nodded your head. Okay, okay. And that was Daddy's why. In retrospect, I started to see this. And every decision that he made after that for his children were centered around that why. And what he did in that moment, what he taught me in that moment, and what I've cultivated in my mind ever since was that we can't help anybody or support anybody in their growth of transformation beyond what we see them as.
Yeah.
Beyond what we see them as. They have to have their own vision. They have to have their own idea, but we also have to hold them in a high vision. And the fact that Daddy at that time, with all that was going on, being, in this country at that time, going through what he was going through, in the circumstances that we were surrounded in, for him to say that, it pushed you. Now, I wasn't quite sure where it was pushing me to, but I knew I was being pushed to figure it out, pushed to go out and do something. And, our parents taught us that everybody's the same, that nobody's special because we're all special, right? And so as I started to evolve in this work, the inclination, the desire was I want people to feel what it feels like to have a vision for themselves. And I want people to feel what it feels like to know that there's somebody who sees higher for them. Because in us getting that gift from our parents, it pushed us on our own individual journeys and our collective journeys just to keep moving. One of the gifts that they gave us also was they neglected to tell us that we were poor.
I
had no idea. Right. Real talk. I had no idea. I didn't know till I got to college because, Daddy kept us close. I have this 3-point strategy that I use with my young people. Get your mind right, get your game tight, watch your crew. Right? And when people ask me about that format, I'm like, I got that from my parents. Get your mind right. They never told us that we were poor, ever. In all the hardship. It was always, let's keep moving. Let's do this. Let's do that. Get your game tight. There was always a plan. Get up 5:30 in the morning. Had us jogging up and down Humboldt Avenue while the rest of the kids were asleep. Summertime, wintertime, they didn't care. Watch your crew. So particular about the people that we were allowed to even hang around with. I remember one time I was in high school and I wanted to go to my friend Caroline Apfel's confirmation at a church. Here goes Daddy. Who's going to be there? You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I think about how it's changed, the one thing that has changed is that I've expanded my vision of who all needs to be involved and who all needs to support. That's what's changed. Because we came up and I went to a private high school with, very well-to-do young people. I went to, a private college with very young. And so I always thought rich people didn't have any problems.
Yeah.
I was low on sympathy for them. I couldn't care less. A problem, let your mommy and daddy write a check. We're over here.
Yep.
And then as I started to do my work and I started to expand my audience and the people that I work with, I realized that everybody's got something. Everybody's got something. Finances, money doesn't inoculate you. It doesn't protect you from trauma and pain. And if you have to bury somebody, it doesn't matter if it's in a gold encrusted casket or in a pine box. The emotion and feeling that you feel when that person goes into the ground is the same. I also realized, and we're seeing this now with all this D&I rollbacks. We don't have time to go into all that. But I also realized in my work that you can't legislate transformation. Right? So you can abolish slavery. You can give women the right to vote. You can put all these things in power on paper. But if we don't do the work to transform the consciousness of a people, what'll happen? It'll all roll back. Right? And I know we're not here to have a political conversation, but since I opened it up, we're going to go here for a second. Let's look at this target foolishness. I never believed it in the first place.
Wow.
Right? When all the Juneteenth started being, it was business, and it had always been business. Target, like a lot of these corporations, succumbed to public pressure and public opinion because it was good business for them. There was a cost associated with it. And when it no longer became profitable and no longer became mandated and had to be something that people had to do from their own consciousness, that's why all the rollbacks are happening. And that's not why I'm not surprised in the least, because it was a business thing. What surprises me is the extent to which people allow themselves to be bamboozled in the first place, thinking that was real. It was a business decision. And so what I'm learning in my work and what I'm telling people and I'm sharing with people is that we can't legislate transformation. If we really want to see real change, real transformation at the organic level to raise the consciousness, we have to start meeting people from a different perspective. Changing up. Here's an example. You were born in 1970 something. I won't put your age out there. If you want to, that's fine. In your lifetime, when you were born, women in this country still had to have permission from their husbands, a brother, an uncle, a male, or somebody to open a bank account. Yeah. But let's say that on Monday of this week, tomorrow, let's say we're going back in time and we're back around that time. It's Sunday. Women can't go, you can't open the bank account, etc. Fast forward to Monday. The laws have changed. Women can now go in and open their accounts. You really think you're going to walk into a bank the next day? Oh, legislation has changed and be welcome. Oh, here, open your account. No. Right. Because the consciousness that allowed that rule to be put in place in the first place has not changed because the law has changed. Minds have to be shifted. Eyes need to be open. So you can have all the legislation. And I'm not saying don't change legislation. Yeah. But when you ask me, going back to your question, what has changed? I have a deeper understanding of my adversary. A deeper understanding of the extent to which the ideas and the viewpoints are entrenched in people's consciousness. So I have a better understanding of what it takes, and I have a better understanding that it's long game. Yeah. So these short-term fixes that people have, the short-term fixes, I'm not surprised. So when people get in an uproar, I'm like, when I see dogs barking, I don't get surprised. When I see cats meowing, I'm not surprised. When dogs start meowing and cats start barking, then you'll get my attention. What we're seeing right now is not a surprise to me, because we allowed ourselves to be lulled into thinking that you put something on paper and a pen and it changes the minds of people. That's not how it works.
Now that's real. I mean, it reminds me of a Dr. King quote when he talked about legislating transformation. He said, "You can't legislate morality, but you can regulate behavior." You know,
exactly, and that's what we've done. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then when you have people who ascend to power whose behavior is not consistent with what we've expected to look like progress, then you see what we have happening now. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. And so your comments about Target and how they switched up, it kind of has me thinking of something that, that our mother always said. And it seems like every time I'm doing something, I can hear her say, you have to stay true to your principles. You have to stay true to your principles. You have to say, like, every single day. And it seems like when we're talking about these organizations, there's a switch up in principles. How have your principles carried you before we get into this conversation about your current work today and some of the things you have coming up?
Oh, well, but for my principles, I'd be rich.
Well, damn.
Wow. Or I would have been rich sooner. All right now.
Yeah.
But for my principles, because there were and continue to be certain things that I will not do, that I will not participate in, because like Miami said, like our mother said, I have to hold up my principles. I have a very strong principle when it comes to my family. I'm very clear with everybody. There's a certain work that I do. I talk about, being able to have conscious conversations and fierce conversations, things like that. But I'm also very clear about my family is my priority. I'm clear about who I will work with, who I will not work with. Money I will take, money I will not take, the kind of work I will do, the kind of work that I will not do, how I will allow myself to be spoken to, how I will allow my peers to be spoken to. And so my principles, holding on to them, like I said, there are clients that I just won't do the work. I've had people reach out to me, oh, we want you to work with, no, thank you, because I don't like what you all are doing, or your principles don't align with mine, or there's just too much hypocrisy. Excuse me, I can't get it out. So, for example, when I first started working, I worked for this organization called Roxbury Youth Works. I'm just putting it all out now. This is back in the
day. Why not?
And that was the first time when I saw what it really looks like to be in a place where people who were diametrically opposed to my principles as it related to young people. Mm-hmm. We were brought up with the Ubuntu principle, meaning that, young people, first of all, we're borrowed. They're on loan. They don't belong to us. Right. But that is an important thing for us to be the example that we want the young people to be, not do as I say, not as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started in this work at the grassroots level, I started to figure out this is one of the reasons why our people are not as far as we could be, because there's a lack of alignment between what we say and how we're living and what we're telling these young people to do. And what I know as a former young person myself, but as an older sibling, as an aunt, children are like pit bulls. They'll sniff out the funk. They sniff out the fake. They know when you're not being sincere. And what mommy used to say is that when children come into this existence, they're as close to their God consciousness and awareness as they'll ever be. So they know when you're faking the funk. So to be in a space, for example, where people are mandated to work with young juveniles and help them move forward and grow, but then know that you're taking them down to the strip club down Dudley Station at lunchtime. That's a problem for me. When we're trying to teach these young men in this detention diversion program to respect themselves and be mindful and to grow up and to be honorable, but then you're taking one as a date to their prom.
These are true stories, y'all. These are true stories, y'all.
Oh, absolutely true. I have a problem with that. When I find out from one of the young people, because young people will tell you everything, that one of the staff people was borrowing money from your mother, I've got a problem with that. So it's this disconnect between what we say and what we're going to do and what we tell the young people and all these. That's why we're not as far as we can be. One of the proudest days of my life? One of the parents, our family runs an organization called Origination Cultural Arts Center. We just celebrated our 30th year last year. We're at the Kennedy Center. We've been doing this work forever. Founded by our two sisters, Sheryl Dibinga, Musa Dibinga, my brother coming up Hata Dibinga, he's a Taekwondo director. One of the parents came in one time and snitched. She was at the hairdresser and she was eavesdropping on this other lady and they were talking about origination. And the woman said, I would never send my child to origination. And she told this other woman, they're too picky. The music, the kids can't dance to this kind of music. They can't dance to that kind of music. They don't take money from alcohol companies.
Wow.
And I was proud because our principles are aligned with what we say. That's how we live. When you see us in the street, you see us at origination, it's the same person, right? And so the thing is that a house divided against itself cannot stand. If you're talking out the side of your neck with these set of principles and you want young people to behave a certain way, and over here, you're living foul, that's the disconnect. You're energetically having schizophrenia in the space that's keeping the young people from really getting that lesson, right? And so in order for us, like I said, but for my principles, there are a lot of companies I could have worked with, but I chose not to because they don't align with me, or the personalities don't align with me, or the way they engage with young people just don't align with me. Also, there are a lot of people I'm sure who chose not to work with me because I'm going to tell it like I see it. I'll tell on myself first. And I encourage people to have that authenticity. So yeah, the principles sometimes, but I also believe that everything that's for me is for me. Everything that's supposed to come to me is going to come to me. So whatever business I didn't get because my principles, I'm like I said, I'm doing pretty okay now, right? That's because I stood by what I said. And so, people say, oh, and everybody has principles. Everybody has principles, right? Yeah, everybody has a principle. It depends on what side of the bread your principle is buttered on. That's the question. So what we see happening in government, they're living out their principles. What we're seeing at these places that are no longer engaging in DE&I are making places space and they're rolling back all the rights and privileges for transgendered and the LGBTQI community, et cetera. They're showing their principles. They just don't happen to align with mine.
Yes. Now, speaking of alignment, I'm so glad the way you laid this out for the people to hear in terms of how you came to be where you are today, because it really ties into where I want to go right now with this conversation about the work you do in strategic planning. I've always had such a reverence for that term because people do a lot of things in organizations. Oh, I do this, but strategic planning is like something that's very specific. So if there's companies out there who are looking to bring you in, what's happening when you're getting with an organization? Like, are you starting from the bottom up? Are you doing inventory, mental inventory to see where people are? Because I feel like there's a lot of people who are vibing with you right now and really consider like maybe doing some work with you. What does strategic planning look like with Muadi Dibinga Unlimited?
Everything is about people. Everything. A lot of people, when I come to the strategic planning process, well, we want to fix this system, we want to fix that system. I said the first thing you have to do is fix the people system. So one of the things that I'm very good at, I'm not good at a lot of things, but the one I'm good at stuff I like to share is we have what I call, for want of a better term, those take it to the shed, come to Jesus conversations.
Yes.
Where as other people will tiptoe around issues, personality issues, dynamic issues, I just bring it to the forward. And I create spaces where, first and foremost, people can honestly, without fear of retribution, without fear of, losing their job or anything like that, be real about what's really going on in the organization. So, for example, I did some work with a nonprofit organization that did a lot of work overseas. And one of the strategic planning challenges that they had were around staffing and diversity and inclusion and cultural competency. And during the course of that, I do one-on-one interviews with everybody. Anybody who's attached to that organization, any key stakeholder, staff person, one of the people that they're serving, client, whatever, everybody, funders, everybody. One of the people that I spoke with was responsible for hiring in that organization. And when I met with them, I made sure to meet with them offsite because I didn't even want the energy of the wall, right?
Yeah.
Infiltrate the conversation. And my intention is to create spaces where people feel they can be really truthful and honest. We can get to the bottom of things. One particular person told me that whenever he, she, or they, I'm trying to keep their, got a resume with somebody with an African name, they automatically disqualified the person.
Wow.
Without interview or anything, because their assumption was that anybody that was educated in Africa was subpar relative to the skill set. Mind you, this is the company that was working in Africa.
Wow.
So, old Muadi, back in the day, I would have been flipping over tables. But because I had a clear intention of what I was trying to accomplish, my ultimate goal was to help this organization course correct so they can better serve the people they were meant to serve.
Yeah.
That would not have been accomplished if I created an environment where this particular person, and this person wasn't proud of it. This person was breaking down in tears and, just feeling guilty and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, we can't heal what we hide, right? And I could come in and put this really great plan together, but if you have people on staff who don't think that people in Africa are smart just by virtue, that's a problem. If you have people on the staff who don't think that women are good in leadership, that's a problem. If there are people on the staff who feel that people at a certain administrative level shouldn't be part of decision making because they don't have the sophistication, that's a problem. And so when I work with people, the first thing is I do, and I talk to everybody. And I talk to them by myself. I don't allow the powers that be. I want to give you a dossier and a rundown. This person's going to tell you this. And that's your experience. I come into it with an open mind and open experience, and we get down to the get down. Well, the first thing is peoples. It's not always about systems. Systems come second, but the people are first. People who feel like they've been disenfranchised from the organization. People who feel like they've been ageism in the organization or youthism, feeling like they don't have a place. So the first thing we do is we talk about the people. And that takes a long time. That tends to be a very interesting process because what I find is there's a real lack of authenticity and honesty in the workplace because people are afraid to have conversations. But also, my thing is, and then when I talk with people one-on-one, I also ask them, well, what's going on at home?
Wow.
You know why?
Tell it.
You can't compartmentalize. That's the word.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Mama used to say, I remember when I was talking to our mother, I was about to go off to college. And I had an argument with one of your siblings, who's also my sibling. And I remember I looked at my mother and I said, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to go to college. We were on Howland Street in Roxbury. Mommy looked me in the face. She said, wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
Right? And in my head, I'm like, what does that mean?
That's my quote, no doubt about it.
Right? And she said, wherever you go, meaning that you take you everywhere. If you take you everywhere, then you bring everything everywhere, right? That means that what's happening at home comes to the workplace. What's happening to the workplace comes at home. It's all interconnected. So if you come into this space, if you're angry at home, it's going to manifest here. If this is problematic at the workplace, it's going to manifest at home. And everybody deserves to be able to live a principally aligned and a spiritually aligned life whereby they have joy everywhere they go to the best that they can, right? So if I know that you're going through something challenging at home with your spouse, with your children, whatever, we have to talk about how that shows up here. Because sometimes people who don't feel big boss at home come into the workplace and try to be ball busters and get on everybody because that's where they feel that they have the power. If they feel powerless at home, if they don't feel heard at home. Also, if you're afraid to tell your spouse that you don't like the way they make the potato salad, how are you going to come in here and have real conversations about real issues? You know, I get into places where people, when I'm doing my DE&I or cultural competencies work, and I do strategic planning around that as well. Well, we want to talk about so-and-so. We want to talk about CRT. Do you really? You don't like the way your husband folds his clothes. You think your wife chews with her mouth open. You can't go tell them that, but you feel that that you have the wherewithal to come in here and have that conversation. No, so it's about priming. About priming. How do we prime the space for the conversation? How do I prime you for the conversation? And then once we get to the people, now we can look at the systems. Because oftentimes, by the time we get to the systems, people are quitting.
Wow.
Why? I didn't like this job anyway. I was here because I was afraid to do what I really wanted to do. I'm only here because, I feel like I have job security, right? And once they start to, then you can start to move people around. Sometimes people need to get off the bus altogether, but sometimes the person might be in the wrong seat on the bus. So that's what we figure out, to put everybody in the right seat. Then we figure out where the bus is going to go. But people want to jump in, where are we going? We don't know where we're going. Figure out where you want to go. Make sure the right people on the bus, and then we move that together. So I feel the reason why I'm good at that is because I've sat through so many trash strategic planning processes where these big consultants come in, we spend all this money to do all this other stuff, and then a month goes by and nothing has changed.
But the change they got in the check.
Yeah, but the change, they got their coins, they got their money, and I'm looking around like, we still up here? So I promised myself, and I got into strategic planning really by accident. It really wasn't my intention. Somebody called me up and was like, we need some help. And I'm like, I've never done it before. Like, yeah, well, we think you can do it because we like the way you talk to us. So, right? And the biggest compliment I get is when I get these emails. We were in a conversation. Someone said, we need to call Muadi, right? It's like the bat signal. Because I tell the truth. I'm not afraid to tell the truth. I'm not afraid to tell the truth. And I'm not afraid to be in spaces where people may be uncomfortable, afraid, reluctant to tell the truth. And, but I feel like that's my gift. I've always been somebody who's been into other people's business. People used to say I talk too much, you're nosy and stuff. So now at least I get to make a living out of it.
Yeah, most definitely. And it seems like wherever you go, in terms of wherever you go, there you are. It seems like when I look at your bio, I'm seeing Harvard, I'm seeing Complexions, which is, a dance company. It seems like it transfers across every industry, and the work you're doing in the schools, which we're about to talk about in terms of the conference coming up in other spaces. It's not like, well, with the work that I do, this is only transfers for nonprofits, or this only transfers for government groups. This is across the board because this is adults.
It's people. It's people. And that's where I really wish we could, in the nonprofit sector and business, it's the people and making sure you just have the right people on the bus. It doesn't matter if it's an engineering firm, if it's a public health organization. I've worked with TJX, I've done private corporations, I've done small social justice organizations. At the bottom line, it's people. And the thing is, there is a common thread amongst people. People want to be, I call it AAA, acknowledged, appreciated, and accepted. Acknowledged, appreciated, and accepted. And when I go into spaces and I see people are not functioning well in a particular position, it's not because they don't want to function well. We all want to function well. It's because, have they been given the tools? Are they on the right seat of the bus? That's transferable, right? And so that's why I've been able to work with such a cross section of people, a cross section of organizations, because that's where it starts and that's where it ends for me. And so once I get the people situation right, you all do the systems. Then it's just me helping you figure out where you want to go. and then helping you sort of plot that up. I'm a good thinker. I'm a good overviewer. Like I can see the bigger picture. I'm also good at pointing out holes and inconsistencies. I'm also good at calling BS.
Yes, you are.
You know,
Not
and
about
so, and we gotta be real. Like, do we really, is this what y'all really want to do?
Yeah.
Is this a real person that you really want to hire this person? And you know, particularly with nonprofits, when new funding things come out, people want to run to shift and change and contort themselves to get that new funding. I'm like, no, because when the funding dries out, you're gonna be out, right? A perfect example is all this DE&I rollback, right? When right before the pandemic, after the whole situation with George Floyd, and everybody was all excited about DE&I, all this money just started coming into the community, etc. And I told everybody, get it now.
Yeah.
Get it now.
Sure did.
Because about 15 minutes from now, it's all gonna dry up. Get it? Situate yourself, but we've got to think long term and we've got to think long game. So when the emotion subsides, and people get back to the state of equilibrium, you don't want to find yourself like a lot of nonprofits are, having got all this money that you depended on that has now dried up, right? You've got to make sure that you're playing long game. And so things change. And so you've got to be prepared for that. And so for me, that's the work, getting people to understand that progress as we see it, however you define it, doesn't always go in a straight line. Sometimes it takes a leap. Sometimes it goes in reverse, right? Sometimes winter lasts for 6 months. We're in winter. Some of us are in winter. Some people are, for them, this is spring. I'm in winter when I think about the consciousness and the direction of this planet. So you got to be prepared for that. You got a good 15 minutes. Maximize it, use it, but don't get comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 15 minutes kind of feels like 11 minutes nowadays.
Right? It's gone. And can I tell you, Omékongo, real talk? That's why people are like, aren't you bothered? I'm like, bothered about what? Like, when I say I'm not bothered, I don't like to see the suffering. That's not what I'm saying at all, right? But I'm not surprised because I understand human nature. I'm not surprised because I study history. I'm not surprised because I understand, for me, you know, I'm 57, I'll be 58 at the next couple of days or something like that. Do you know how long it's taken me to transform myself? Myself.
Yeah.
But we think that in 4 years, the consciousness that allowed slavery to be okay on this continent in the first place has dissipated in these couple of years just by legislation?
That's right.
Absolutely not. So I'm saying, just don't be surprised. Do the work. But we can't afford to be surprised, because when we're surprised, that tells me that you're naive. And if you're naive, then I can't trust you. I can't trust you. You're looking for unicorns and rainbows and sprinkles, fairy dust. I can't trust you. You have to have you have to be an optimist, a realist, an optimist at the same time.
That's right.
And, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, like, what's going on now, are people minding other people's business, minding the wrong thing, got their eyes on the wrong thing, being distracted by foolishness. For example, everybody's in Gayle King's pocketbook.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, they are. Yeah. Speak on it.
First and foremost, mind your business. Business. If you're mad about what Gayle King did with her $450,000, go get your $450,000 and do with it what you think. You're mad because she had a demonstration of her wealth on national television, right? Let's think about this for a second. So people, and my disappointment in Gayle, sorry, Gayle, you should have said, she should have, what do you say, 10 toes down. You went because you wanted to. You went because you had the money. That's interesting to you. But now, after the fact, trying to spin it so that it has some kind of cultural value, because you feel bad for what people are saying. Right? You should have said, I earned this money. It's my money. I'm going to do what I want with my money. Maybe she gives to charity. Maybe she doesn't. It's not our business to tell her to spend her money. But here's my issue. Everybody's mad at Omékongo because this big display and the world is suffering. And how can she do that when this, right? Daddy tell us about eating in public. Daddy told us, our father told us, don't eat in public because people you are walking by, homeless people, you don't know who hasn't eaten.
That's right.
So people are mad at Gayle because she put up her $450,000 thing. Yesterday, when I was walking back from Taekwondo, what did I see? Cafes of people just eating outside in front of people, doing what? Displaying their wealth.
Mm-hmm.
There are homeless people walking by down the street. I go on YouTube or what we call Instagram. I see people, oh, I did this vacation over here. I got these new kicks. Oh, look at this new stuff. So there are poor people who have access to social media seeing you flaunt your stuff too. Oh, these are relationship goals. My boo got me this and my boo got me that. There are people on social media who are going through terrible breakups right now, whose relationships are in the toilet, who are feeling bad about themselves, but it's okay for you to, right? It's scale for sure. But
Yeah.
it's still the point that everybody has something that somebody else does not have. We're mad at Gayle, not me, because it's not my business. I'm kind of looking like if she can get $450,000, I can get $450,000. Now, would I do that with that? No, but I have other things that I want to do with it, right? And so my point is, mind your business.
Yeah.
And also, it's a distraction. How many think pieces and thought pieces did I see about Gayle King and her $450,000 going to the moon? Meanwhile, even when I was coming out of yoga the other day, I can't believe she did. But how did it hurt you? It wasn't taxpayer money. It wasn't your money, right? You don't have $450,000. Take your $4,500. Take your $45. Take your $4.50 and do with it as you will. But when we're out here, and this is my perspective, my opinion, when I see people who have means, unless they're thieves, I bless them because A, good for you, you work for it, you earned it. I'm not hating on that. And then when what we put out comes back to us. So if I put out energy of appreciation and respect for your abundance, that means that more abundance will come in my direction. I'm not going to hate on that.
Yeah.
But we spend so much time spending. I've heard people argue about what Michael Jordan does with his money. He earned his money. What Prince did with his money, right? And we use these things to put other people down 9 times out of 10 for doing the things that we're not willing to do. Were you willing to work as hard as they work?
Right.
Make the sacrifices and that type of thing. So for me, strategic planning, all the work that I do is really around getting people to focus on themselves. Mind your business. When I'm teaching yoga, I say, if it's not on your mat, it's not your business. When you see other people doing well, bless them. When you see them in good relationships, bless them. When you see them that they have resources that they came to by way of their own good work, bless them, because that blessing will come back to you. I wasn't always like that. I'm going to be honest.
Right.
I'm not, don't get me wrong. And you know who reminded me of this lesson? Reverend Ike.
Reverend Ike. Wow.
Reverend Ike. When our parents were in graduate school at Harvard, and I think I was maybe 4th or 5th grade, Daddy used to get up, our father used to get up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would hear him typing. He used to have this little white manual typewriter. And I would hear him listening to this guy, Reverend Ike. Now, I never listened to what they were talking about. I would just be going to the bathroom or whatever. I remember his sign off, but that's it. A couple of months ago, maybe 2, 3 months ago, somehow out of nowhere, and not out of nowhere, I don't think anything happens out of nowhere, Reverend Knight showed up on my YouTube suggested video.
Wow.
And I started playing it just because, why not? He was talking about mindset. He was talking about blessing people. He was talking about abundance. He was talking about consciousness and poverty mindset and the things that we could. And as I was listening to him, it ties in with what we talk about today, how we're doing. Right. And then it occurred to me that our father, Daddy, was listening to this back, over 40 years ago at this point. And so I've been listening to, and I do a lot of reading and I do a lot of sort of staying to myself. I've gotten better at that. And what I've discovered is the more I praise and other people, and the more that I have really, really, really want other people to win, the more things have come in my direction. I want everybody to win.
Yeah.
I want everybody to feel good about themselves. Real talk. I don't think people who feel good about themselves and know the truth of who they are and whose they are and where they come from will do half of this wahala and nonsense that we see. So the work that I do with young people, I'm going to the Boost conference in at the end of this month. I'm going out to California. I do work with this company called Edvestors. It's a Boston-based educational program, and we have a Boston Arts internship that we do every summer. And that's the crew where I piloted my Get Your Mind Right, Get Your Game Tight Watcher Crew curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we take these young people over the summer, and the goal, my goal, I'm an executive coach for the young people and a personal coach for the young people, is to get them to shift their mindset, change how they see themselves, what's possible. I share all of our family history, all of our challenges around finances and getting bullied and getting jumped and all the things that we've gone through. But I share with them, most importantly, what Daddy said to us at that table. My vision is that my children are going to change the world. When somebody sees you bigger than you see yourself, that changes you. When somebody in a situation where other people might be like, this is hopeless, just comes constant with positivity. It wasn't always easy. Like I said, our parents weren't perfect, but they neglected to tell us that we were poor. They neglected to tell us that we weren't going to be. They pushed us and pushed us and pushed us and pushed us to the point now, what are we doing? We're changing the world. You travel around the globe. Our siblings travel around the globe. We're doing the exact thing, not in the form, but the outcome from that vision. So what we do in the summer at Investors, what I do with my coaching with young people, I'm really focused on young people, particularly young people who grew up where we grew up. Because they don't have a lot of people speaking life and power into them. And people are like, oh, you're planting seeds. I'm like, I'm not planting seeds. They are the seed. They came as the seed, right? We're providing fertile ground in which the seeds of genius that are already embedded within them can come up. And when I'm dealing with adults, no matter where it is, whether it's in Acton, the most rural part of California, here in Massachusetts, my job is to try to support people to remember the truth of who they are. Before life told them that they were this, before the divorce, before their child abandoned them, before they lost their job, you are an idea in the mind of consciousness. And when you look at children, you're a parent, you see these kids. You know, I think about your kids, think about that, your son Yanga. And, think about him. I think about my nephews and nieces. When kids are little, they'll get up, fall, get up, fall, get up, fall, get up, fall. They don't care. Bump, bruise, oh, that hurt. They get up, do it again. I remember being, in the space of my nephews and nieces, they come bursting into the door, don't even knock, because they just assume that they're welcome.
Yeah.
Right? They assume that. But then what happens, what mommy says, life dumbs us down. And then when we become the adults of walking dead, in jobs that don't fulfill us, in relationships in bodies that betray us. So my job in this work, and I bring this to everything that I do, is to support you. I don't empower people. I know that's a big tag, but I can't do that. I don't have that kind of power. You're barely empowering myself, right? But what I do is I'm going to ask empowering questions. I'm going to ask reflective questions, empowering questions that have the yes already embedded within it. I'm going to ask you reflective questions. What did you do to contribute to you being in this space? Because you can't control anybody else. But if you made it, you can fix it. The power, we all have the power to transform and change our lives. If we mind our business, focus on ourselves, and take full accountability and full responsibility for everything. I don't know how I got here, but I know I'm going to get myself out. That's what we try to teach the young people. That's what we try to show them. That's what we try to remind them. And when I'm dealing with old people, grown folks, I'm trying to get them to remember that too. And to give them an opportunity to see themselves as children. Before life told you couldn't do it, before so-and-so disappointed you, before the job got lost, before the economy tanked, when you came here, who were you? Find that energy, and then we start to move forward. That's it. Like when I walk around, real talk, I get so upset when I hear people say stuff like, well, that's just how it's always been, when you get older, that's how it is. When I turned 40, I remember I was talking to one of my friends and I bent down to pick up something. I was like, oh, and she was like, oh, that's what happens when you turn 40. I said, no. This is what happens, because it was on a Saturday. I said, this is what happens when you wake up the night before, go to the gym, then go take hot yoga at 6 a.m. with Kendra Black at Dibinga over at Bikram Yoga Works, and then go running on the treadmill at Planet Fitness afterwards. That's what this is.
That's right.
This is not from 40, right? But we tell ourselves, well, after 40, you got to do so-and-so. After 50, if I listen to everything that people told me, every timetable that people told me that when this happens, your life is over, after 30, I wouldn't have got out of bed. We buy into these narratives. You adopt these mindsets. And almost to the point we do it like sleepwalking. I want people to wake up to the possibility of your life. Wake up. The dream that you have, they do not have an expiration date. They have a best if used by date. So you need to get up and get to it. But if you're still breathing, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that are wrong. I can see that. I'm not some, like I said, I don't have fairy dust in my eyes. I know what's going on in this world. I don't need anybody to remind me of how challenging life is on this planet. But you're also not going to try to get me to forget all the good that is still here, all the beauty that is still here, all the joy that is still here. You're not going to do that. You're not going to play me like that. I'm not going out like that.
So before we close up, because you just took it there, so I feel like we have to go here. Before we close up, let people know where to find you and all of that. I just need you to say a little bit more as it relates to maintaining your health on this journey.
Listen, our mother started.
People gotta hear it. The people gotta hear what you got to say on this.
I'm 57. I'll be 58 in like 8 days. And people are blown away and surprised. Oh, I just got my second degree black belt in Taekwondo. I do Bikram hot yoga at least 4 or 5 times a week. If I could go every day that I do, I would. I'm looking at my mother. Our mother, she's 85. She's having some challenges. When she had she had to have a valve transplant, heart valve operation, some, thing with her heart years ago. The doctor told her that Tai Chi saved her life. Our brother just had a hip replacement. He's a former he's a March 6th degree black belt, trained since he was 15, trained here, trained in Korea, been fighting like his whole life for real. So, hip was used. The doctors told him that because he was in such good health, that he would have a faster recovery than the average person. He had that surgery on Wednesday. He was driving today. Today, right? Fitness, health, and wellness, there are few things that we can control in this world. We can't control when our time is up. We can't control to a certain extent what's happening in the world. But you can control what you put in your mouth, and you can control how often you move. And in order for us to have the fitness, the mental, spiritual, emotional fitness to fight, to do the work, to be in resistance, you have to be healthy. We don't need any foot soldiers who can't stand on their feet for more than 5 minutes. We don't need people who are triggered by every little thing that they got anger management issues. And this, I'm a recovering,
Yeah, hey,
you know me your whole life. I'm in recovery from anger management and the toll that it used to take on my body. Sleep is important. Good food is important. We need the mental capacity and the awareness to be able to, first of all, just to enjoy life. I'm enjoying life at almost 60. I feel good. I'm in great shape, but also to have the stamina to withstand what needs to be done. Also to have the wherewithal to be conscious of your surroundings. Real story. My sister and I, our sister, we were in California. I'll never forget it. We were in California in the early stages of Complexions Contemporary Ballet Company. That's a company that we worked with for 30 years. We were at a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Yeah.
And it was, we went in there with a couple of our friends, my first time in California, and we were sitting at the table, chilling, having a good time, looking around, eating. And then all of a sudden I started looking around and the clientele started to change as the evening started to progress, right? I turn around, this guy's, falling asleep. I turn around, this one's energy is just kind of off, right? Talk about intuition and awareness and being conscious of your surroundings, being a healthy person, having good eyesight, reading energy. I looked around, I said to my sister, I said, Musal, we gotta go. Now Musal, being a Dibinga, she didn't ask any questions. She just started packing up her stuff. The people that we were with, we don't have to leave yet. It was so early. I said, well, my sister and I were leaving. We'll meet you in the parking lot. 2 people sucked their teeth. They got up. We're out. We get up because Musa's like lockstep. We get out. We're in that parking lot a good 5 minutes. All heck broke out.
Wow.
Somebody came running out because they skipped a check. Somebody else started. There was a fight that broke out because I saw my surroundings, because I'm aware. I'm a teetotaler. I know people, drink, don't drink. That's not my judgment, but I believe that I have to have a good sense of where I am at all times. So I like to be alert. I think it was Audre Lorde said that, I'm paraphrasing now, that taking care of ourselves is a sign of revolution. That's an act of revolution. Because when you think about it, particularly Black people in this country, we are brought over here as cattle. Let's keep that real. Let's keep it 100. So It's revolutionary for cattle to think that they got to take care of themselves. We were brought over here, treated in the most inhumane possible way that somebody could be treated, right? And there are things in our community, the foods that we were fed, the way that we were working to the ground, and that kept us down, that kept us in this state of, which was not to our benefit, right? It was for capitalism, but it was not for us. I believe that the first thing that any people need to do, if you're really serious about any type of revolution or any type of empowerment, any type of change, we have to be healthy.
That's right.
We have to be healthy. And we also have to set an example. I don't have birth children, but I consider my nephews and my nieces to be children. I need to be a living demonstration of what it looks like to take care of yourself into your long years. Because one of my kids, when I came out of, when I came back and started working at the detention center, one of the kids, his name was Sean. I'm not going to say his last name.
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, he's like, well, always talk, because I was always trying to talk to them about, you should do this, you should do that. He's like, well, I may not make it till I'm 18, so who cares? I said, well, what if you do?
Wow.
What if you do? I didn't expect to live past 25. This is real talk. My intention was when I was 25 to check out. I'm going to be keeping 100.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was like, I'm good with this. I don't know what's happening here. I'm good with that. I'm out of here. Then some things started happening to the family. Some of my younger siblings started to show some signs of distress. So I'm like, okay, I got to hang around for them just a little bit. So the next thing I know, I'm hanging around for them. Then they start having kids. Y'all start having all these kids. I'm like, well, I got you around for children, right? I'm 58. I'm here 23 years longer than I planned to be. Had I not taken care of myself, 58 would be very different.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you. I wouldn't be able to be of service to my family. I wouldn't be able to be of service to the community that I seek to serve, right? Long term, y'all, we got to think long game. And I said this to you when we were off camera, and I'm going to say it again. When people talk to me about wanting to work with me, we talk about health. There are 4 wheels that keep this car moving: your career, your finances, your relationships, and your health and wellness. So you will not work with me, whether it's in a strategic planning space or a coaching space, and not have health be part of the conversation. We can't get away from it. It's the only body that you got. It was given to you as a gift, right? Meant to be a temple, not a trash can. So health is everything. Health is everything. Because if I lose everything today, if I have my mindset and I have my health, I can get it all back and then some.
That's right. I really appreciate you joining the UPstanders podcast. Can you let people know where they can go to find you?
Where can they find me? They can find me sometimes on social media. I'm on Instagram. At M Dibinga. And they can find me. I have a YouTube channel, Muadi Dibinga on YouTube, and my website, muadidibingaunlimited.com. This has been a lot of fun, Omékongo. I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. I appreciate how far you've come in your growth and how you are a living demonstration. Also, we have a lot of things in common in terms of the way we see the world and some of the challenges that we've experienced. And I think it's important to have these kinds of conversations because, we got to keep it real. We have to be real with each other. And one of the things I appreciate about our relationship, and this is a requirement for all of my friendships, Iyanla Vanzant said, you have to love people enough to tell the truth, right? And she also says, you have to make it easy for people to tell you the truth. Right. So on this conversation we've had just now, I've shared, I'm not into, don't edit anything, put it all out there. I stand 10 toes down on everything that I said because I love my people enough. I love the community enough. I love you enough to tell the truth. And I like to believe, I wasn't always, but now I'm also somebody who believes in people telling me the truth. I try to create spaces. So if I can leave your audience with 2 things, that's it. Love people enough to tell them the truth. The honest truth, and be straightforward. We're using a lot of slang now. And one phrase that I can't stand, I know we have to wrap up, but can I just say this one more thing?
Of course.
I am sick of people saying, I feel some kind of way. I'm not clairvoyant. Come to me and say, Muadi, this makes me feel a kind of way. I'm going to ask you, what way is that exactly?
Right, that's right.
Right? We've gotten to the place where we're so disconnected. Michael Bernard Beckwith says it's a high-tech, low-touch society. We're texting all the time, we're emailing all the time, but we're not having these face-to-face conversations. And now we're getting to the point where we're burying and not even encouraging people to articulate their real feelings. Don't tell me you felt some kind of way. Why do you hurt my feelings? Why did that make me happy? Why did that make me sad? Why did that make me confused? Tell me something. If I leave your audience with that, learn to tell the truth. Don't be so sensitive that people can't tell you the truth, and get in touch with and learn to express your real feelings, what they really are. I don't know what some kind of way means. I don't guess that. I get so happy when my nieces and nephews say, Auntie Moy, that hurt my feelings. Not because I hurt their feelings, but because they are still at that stage where they're going to tell you straight up how they feel. And as an adult, my responsibility is to see, hear them, respect them, and honor that. And that's what I want people to start doing. Stop feeling a kind of way. Let's be specific. Let's be courageous in our conversations. Let's get our health and wellness in order and mind your business.
I like it. I like it. Well, I mean, I gotta, everything you said is just on point, and I'm so appreciative, of having, you in my life, and you and my older siblings who all saved my life, growing up, just in everything that our parents instilled. I'm not here if it's not for you. I'm not here if it's not for them. So I'm glad that we continue to be on this journey and everything you do. And I'm glad that the world got to get a snippet of what I've been getting for all of these years, y'all. So please.
I scared them off.
Muadi, bring out to the organizations. Muadi, thank you for joining the UPstanders podcast.
Thanks for having me, Omékongo. This was great. Let's do it again sometime soon.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.